everyone. We are the Group 1 and I am Chloe Arceo. We were tasked to discuss the different practices and ceremonies of Buddhism. But first, let us know what is Buddhism. Buddhism was originated in ancient India as a Sramana tradition sometime between the 6th and 4th centuries BCE, spreading through much of Asia. Buddhism is a faith that was founded by Siddhartha Gautama, or the Buddha. Buddhism is considered as one of the major world religions. Many Buddhist ideas and philosophies overlap with those of other faiths. Buddhism is a spiritual tradition that focuses on personal spiritual development and the attainment of a deep insight into the true nature of life. They focus on achieving enlightenment, or a state of inner peace and wisdom. Buddhism was founded by Buddha. Buddha is considered as an extraordinary being, but not God. Buddha means enlightened. The path to enlightenment is attained by utilizing morality, meditation, and wisdom. Buddhists often meditate because they believe it helps awaken truth. And now let us go to the different Buddhist rituals and practices. Like other great religions, Buddhism has generated a wide range of popular practices which will be discussed later. Among these, two simple practices, which are the meditation, are deeply rooted in the experience of the earliest Buddhist community and have remained basic to all Buddhist traditions. Buddhism incorporates a variety of rituals and practices which are intended to aid in the journey to enlightenment and bring blessings on oneself and others. The practice of meditation is central to nearly all forms of Buddhism, and it derives directly from the Buddha's experiences and teachings. So Buddha's most important teachings, known as the Four Noble Truths, are essential to understand the religion. So the Four Noble Truths are the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path that frees us from suffering. So meditation is the central focus of Zen Buddhism and the only way to liberation in Theravada Buddhism. In addition to meditation, the Mahayana schools of Buddhism have developed a variety of other ritual and devotional practices, many of which were inspired or influenced by the existing religious cultures of India, China, Japan, Southeast Asia, and Tibet. So these are the main Buddhist sacred rituals and practices. First is the meditation. Second is the mantras. Third is the mudras. Fourth is the prayer wheels. Fifth is the monasticism. Sixth is the pilgrimage. And lastly is the veneration of Buddhas and deities. So these practices will further be discussed later. But first, let us know the history of Buddhism.
History of Buddhism. Buddhism is a religion founded in India based on the teachings of Buddha, which teaches that the most important thing in life is to reach peace by ending suffering. The lotus is a symbol of Buddha. It represents purity. Who is the founder of Buddhism? The founder of Buddhism is Siddhartha Gautama. He was born into a wealthy family, and prophecies stated that if he stayed home, he would become a king. And if he left home, he will become a spiritual leader. His family chose to keep him sheltered at home, not allowing him to leave the palace. The Buddha is the given title to Siddhartha Gautama, and it means awakened one. The life of Buddha. Around 400 BCE, Siddhartha Gautama was born as a prince of a small Hindu kingdom. A wise man, prophesied that the young prince would become either a great king or a great savior or a religious leader. If the child was exposed to suffering, he would follow the spiritual path. Siddhartha's father wanted him to become a great king, so he tried to shelter him from the suffering. Siddhartha married at the age of 16 and was on his way to political leadership, but he took a journey that exposed him to suffering and ultimately led to the creation of Buddhism. When he was approximately 35 years old, he gave his first sermon called The Wheel of Dharma that explained what people must do to release themselves from suffering. The Buddha continued to teach until he was 80. During that time, the Buddha taught mainly through the use of stories. However, his teachings were not written down during his lifetime. In fact, they were first written down 400 years later by his followers. So, how did Buddhism begin? When Gautama passed away around 483 BC, his followers began to organize a religious movement. Buddha's teachings became the foundation for what would develop into Buddhism. In the 3rd century BC, Ashoka the Great, the Mauryan Indian emperor, made Buddhism the state religion of India.
The meditation in Buddhism. Meditation, as we all know, it is a mental concentration and mindfulness. In Buddhist meditation, it is a form of mental concentration that leads ultimately to enlightenment and spiritual freedom. Meditation occupies a central place in all forms of Buddhism, but has developed characteristic variations in different Buddhist traditions. There are two main types of meditations in Buddhist tradition. First is Vipassana. It focuses on the insight. Second is the Samatha that focuses on tranquility. These two are usually combined or used one after the other. Usually, Vipassana follows the Samatha. In China and Japan, an entire school of Buddhism developed around the practice of sitting meditation, which are known as Qian or Zen Buddhism. So, Samatha focuses on tranquility. The basic purpose of Samatha or the tranquility meditation is to instill the mind and brain to concentrate. The object of concentration is less important than the skill of concentration itself and varies by the individual and situation. On the other hand, Vipassana insight is the oldest Buddhist meditation and practices used for enhancing mindfulness. The method comes from the Satipatthana Sutta, a discourse attributed to Buddha himself. Now let's move on to the mantras in Buddhism. So what is mantras? So mantras is a sacred sound that are believed to possess supernatural powers. The word mantra is a Sanskrit word which probably means that which protects or tra the mind and the man. Mantras are practiced especially in Tibetan Buddhism, where they believe to embody the power of attributes of deities. In addition to invoking deities and providing supernatural power, mantras are often used for protection from evil and misfortune. They are chanted during large public rituals to avert collective danger and in private rituals to protect individuals against illness and misfortune. For example, every summer in Kyoto, Japan, children sit in a circle and pass around a large rosary to invoke the protection of the Bodhisattva, Kistigarbha, or guardian of children.
Hi, my name is Ancel Jeff Chan, and I'll be talking about mudras and prayer wheels. So, These are some of the rituals and practices of Buddhism. Then we'll proceed first with mudras. So mudras are symbolic gestures or used symbolically in Buddha images like paintings or sculptures, and is believed to evoke particular ideas or particular deities during Buddhist meditation or ritual. So just like how we Christians do, like a prayer position when we pray, so mudras are also the same thing. These are usually hand or finger gestures that are used in rituals in Buddhism. So for example, for Christians, we put together our palm to do a prayer position. So mudras is like a counterpart in Buddhism. So generally, there are a large number of esoteric mudras. There are 10 main ones, of which 5 are most commonly used in Buddha images. So we will be discussing about the 5 main mudras in Buddhism. So the first one is the Abhaya Mudra, or also known as the gesture of fearlessness and protection. So it represents spiritual power. Okay, this mudra is most often seen in a standing Buddha. So if you ever like seen a picture of Buddha, usually Buddha does this hand gesture. Okay, so that is the Abhaya Mudra. So next we have the Bhumisparsha Mudra, or the gesture of earth witness, which the Buddha is said to have made at the time of his enlightenment. The third one is the Dharma Chakra Mudra, or the wheel turning gesture, or the turning of the wheel of the Dharma. So it represents Buddha's teachings, which is infinite. So the fourth mudra is the Dhyana Mudra, or the gesture of meditation. And lastly, the gesture of gift giving or bestowal, Varada Mudra. So again, we have 5 main mudras in Buddhism. So we have the Abhaya Mudra, the gesture of fearlessness. We have the Bhumisparsha Mudra, the gesture of earth witness. The Dharma Chakra Mudra, or the wheel turning gesture. You also have the Dhyana Mudra, the gesture of meditation. And lastly, Varada Mudra, the gesture of gift giving or bestowal. So aside from mudras, I mentioned earlier that we are also going to discuss about Buddhist prayer wheels. So a Buddhist prayer wheel is a hollow metal cylinder, or often beautifully embossed or mounted on a rod handle, and containing a tightly wound scroll printed with a mantra. So prayer wheels are used primarily in Buddhist, usually in Tibet and Nepal, where handheld prayer wheels are carried by pilgrims when they have um, some devotional activities or rituals. Also, for many Buddhists, a prayer wheel represents the wheel of the law or the Dharma. So earlier, when we talked about mudras, I mentioned about the third main mudra, the Dharma Chakra Mudra, which is the wheel turning. So that mudra also has something to do with this prayer wheel. They are actually in relation to each other because both has the same concept of um, the set in motion made by Buddha itself. So prayer wheels is also in general comes in different sizes. We have small ones that are attached to a stick or with a handle that is spun by the hand. We also have medium-sized prayer wheel, and these are usually seen in monasteries or temples. And the very large ones are located um, also on temples or monasteries, but these are spun by watermill. So since these are like very huge prayer wheel, it cannot be just spun by the hand. So watermills are the one who spins or spun this prayer wheels, the very huge ones. So if you'll try to check at the background, it's actually an example of a medium size prayer wheel. So yeah, it's mentioned to be located on monasteries, but specifically they are in the gates. So by the time devotees went in and do some rituals before they get in the temple, they will pass through the gate, touching those prayer wheels and spinning it with their hand as they get inside the temple or the monastery. So aside from prayer wheels varying in sizes, we also have like parts of a prayer wheel. So we have the external cylinder of a prayer wheel is made up of preposed metal or usually gilded with bronze. We also have the handle or the axis. This is usually for the small prayer wheels, and it's made out of wood or sometimes precious metal. So the outside of the cylinder are inscriptions in Sanskrit or auspicious Buddhist symbolism. Moving on, we have the outer parts. It's actually removable to allow the insertion of sacred texts into the cylinder. So in the beginning, I mentioned that a prayer wheel, there is like a scroll inserted on it. It's actually a sacred text. So that sacred text inside a cylinder is printed, some usually printed on a paper or also sometimes animal skin. And these texts are usually sutras or sometimes invocations of particular deities or sometimes mantras as well. But the most commonly used text on a prayer wheel is the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, which translate to praise to the jewel of the lotus. So why lotus? If you will actually check, the very uppermost point of the prayer wheel forms a shape of a lotus bud. So this part. So and lotus, it actually plays a great role in Buddhism because it symbolizes purity of mind, speech, and the body. So basically, that's all about Buddhist prayer wheel. Just a quick review. With me, we have talked about mudras. There are 5 main mudras that we have discussed. We also talked about prayer wheels, which are used during devotional activities or rituals of Buddhists. And it comes in different sizes. It may be small, it may be medium sized, or very large ones, which are being spun by watermill. And Buddhas, Buddhas are pictures or paintings or um, sculptures of Buddhas depicts also the mudras, the 5 mudras we've discussed. And for the parts of a prayer wheel, there is also a sacred text inserted on it, usually on small-sized prayer wheel. And yeah, that would be all. I'll be just mainly focusing on mudras and prayer wheels, and the rest will be discussed to you by my colleagues. Thank you so much for listening.
Buddhist monasticism, one of the earliest surviving forms of organized monasticism and one of the fundamental institutions of Buddhism. So we have the 4 major Buddhist pilgrimage sites applied to all Buddhists. First, we have Langdun. Second, we have Bodh Gaya. Third, we have Sarnath. And fourth, we have Kushinagar. These pilgrimage sites composed of the core pilgrimage sites for Buddhism. So now let's talk about the purpose of pilgrimage. First purpose of pilgrimage is to foster a spiritual discipline. Second is to fulfill a vow or to simply travel. Third is it is an important Buddhist practice. Fourth, we have it helps to express feelings of devotion. And lastly, it creates a relationship with the historical figures associated with the pilgrimage site.
So, Theravada, way of an elders in Pali, because the original language of this teaching. Then, Theravada is the most conservative or orthodox branch of Buddhism. Holds firmly to Buddha's belief that human existence is full of suffering, that nothing on earth is ever permanent, and that humans are just part of the fleeting, rather insignificant whole. In addition, Theravada is originated in India around 500 BC and has been practiced in numerous, mostly in South Asian countries. And today, it is practiced primarily in Burma, Cambodia, Laos, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. And second one is the oldest tradition. It's the oldest tradition because it's based their philosophies and sutras are teaching of Siddhartha Gautama, better known as Buddha. And the next one is Nirvana. Nirvana, a perfect state of enlightenment, comes with a recognition that ego or self is an illustration that causes us and others pain and suffering. So, Nirvana, which is enlightenment of freedom of cycle of death and rebirth. So, they translated by the West as freedom from reincarnation. The word Nirvana actually means to extinguish. So, when a person who achieves Nirvana is known as Arhat. So in order to become an Arhat, you should pass the 4 stages. So, stage 1 is Sotapanna. So, one who enters the stream. So, a person who realizes that he or she lives under an illusion and catches a glimpse of the true path. So, the second stage is Sakadagamin, one who returned once. So, a person who has shed many of his attachments to worldly things and who will only have to be reborn once more before he achieved Nirvana. So, the third stage is Anagami, one who never returns. So, partially enlightened person who will not return to the human world after death, but exists among other partially enlightened beings. So, the last stage is Arhat, so one who is worthy. So, an enlightened one who will never reborn again. So you need to pass this so that you become an Arhat.
Mahayana. It is also called Great Vehicle. As the name implies, the Mahayana came to think of itself as great, both in its interpretations of the Buddha's teaching and its openness to a broader group of people, especially lay people. Second one is its origin remains obscure. The date and location of the tradition's emergence are unknown, and the movement most likely took shape over time and in multiple phases. Third one is it was developed in India. Fourth one is it also refers to the path of the Bodhisattva striving to become a fully awakened Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, and it is those called the Bodhisattva vehicle. A Bodhisattva refers to anyone who has made a resolution to become a Buddha and has also received a confirmation or prediction from a living Buddha that this will be so. And the last one is, according to the survey, The Mahayana tradition is the largest major tradition of Buddhism existing today, with 53% Buddhists belonging to East Asian Mahayana. This survey was concluded during or last 2010. Mahayana Buddhism. First one is generally sees the goal of becoming a Buddha through the Bodhisattva path as being available to all and sees the state of the Arhat as incomplete. Arhat is one who has gained insight into the true nature of existence and has achieved nirvana. The second one is Mahayana Buddhist philosophy also promotes unique theories, such as the Madhyamaka theory of emptiness, the Vijnanavada doctrine, and the Buddha nature teaching. The third one is Mahayana Buddhism spread throughout the South Asia, Central Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. It remains influential today in China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Nepal, and Malaysia and Bhutan. And also, Mahayana Buddhism provides 8 scriptures, which is called Mahayana Sutras. Mahayana Sutras are a broad genre of Buddhist sutra, scriptures that are accepted as canonical and as Buddhavacana or Buddha word in Mahayana Buddhism. These scriptures almost certainly written by monks. Those scriptures that were first compiled some 4 centuries after Buddha's death. According to the Buddhist scholar Sangha, he classified that Mahayana Sutras as part of the Bodhisattva Pitaka, a collection of texts meant for Bodhisattvas.
Tibetan Buddhism is the form of Mahayana Buddhism that developed in Tibet and the surrounding Himalayan region beginning in the 7th century. Tibetan Buddhism incorporates Madhyamika and Yogacara philosophy, tantric symbolic rituals, Theravadan monastic discipline, and the shamanistic features of the indigenous religion. Among its unique characteristics are its system of reincarnating lamas and the vast number of deities in the pantheon. Tibetan Buddhism is a religion in exile, having been driven from its country when China seized Tibet. Tibetan Buddhism mixes Mahayana Buddhism's core teachings with tantric and shamanic practices, as well as elements from an old Tibetan religion known as Bon. The Dalai Lama, Tibet's exiled spiritual and political leader who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989, is the most well-known figure in Tibetan Buddhism. The first significant event in the history of Tibetan Buddhism occurred in 641 when King Songtsen Gampo unified Tibet and took 2 Buddhism wives, Princess Wencheng from China and Princess Bhrikuti Devi from Nepal. Before long, King Gampo made Buddhism the state religion and established a network of 108 Buddhist temples across the region, including the Jokhang and Ramachi temples to house the Buddha statues his wives had brought as their dowries. Conflict with the former national religion, however, would continue for centuries. In 16401, King Songtsen Gampo unified Tibet and married 2 Buddhist brides, marking the beginning of Tibetan Buddhism's history, Princess Wencheng from China and Princess Bhrikuti Devi from Nepal. Soon after, King Gampo declared Buddhism to be state religion and built a network of 108 Buddhist temples throughout the region, including the Jokhang and Ramache temples, to house the Buddha sculpture his wives had brought as dowries. However, the conflict with Bon, the former national religion, would last for generations. Since the 11th century, Tibetan Buddhism has had a profound influence on the peoples of Central Asia, particularly in Mongolia and Manchuria. Tibetan Buddhism spread to the West in the second half of the 20th century as many Tibetan leaders were banished from their homeland.
It was recognized as an official state religion by the Mongol Yuan dynasty and the Manchu Qing dynasty of China. Tibetan religious communities in the West nowadays are made up of both Tibetan refugees and Westerners who are drawn to the Tibetan religious heritage.